I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Christopher Ernst. He is an Army veteran and a combat hero, and he is sharing a deeply personal and moving account of his journey with cancer from the tender age of just 3 years old. In his book, Tell Me the Truth, he paints a vivid picture of resilience, family support, and the many emotional moments intertwined in his fight against this dreaded disease. We're delighted to have Chris join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel and by buying his book. Chris, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much, Logan. I appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. You know, when you have cancer starting at the age of 3, it's sort of like you've had cancer your whole life because that's all you ever knew. That's all you could ever remember, I guess, in some ways, right?
That is correct. Yep. It was very shocking to say the least at that age. I didn't really have a full understanding of what was going on, but I knew my family around me had the full impact of what was going on when I was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, well, you know, you might not understand what the word means. You know, it means you're sick. You see it in your mother's face. You see
Yeah.
it in the loved ones around you, just how devastating that diagnosis is. What type of cancer were you diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed with neuroblastoma. It was a softball-sized tumor in my abdomen, and I had all sorts of ailments and symptoms that led my mother to keep taking me to the doctor, fevers, all sorts of things where for a while they didn't know what it was. And then once they felt around my stomach and felt, hey, something's off, that kind of triggered a bunch of red flags where, hey, the tests were done and, it's serious now. It's cancer. It's a tumor. So
Unbelievable. So this was the beginning of a very long journey for you. What, 10 years or so?
yeah, so they found it when I was 3. They did all sorts of testing, treatments. I had a tube like in my chest by my collarbone where they would draw blood because I had to draw blood so frequently. And then it ended up being surgery, a major surgery. The type of tumor and cancer it was, this was back in the 90s, so it was much more uncommon than it is today. I had to consistently get treatment and get seen because the chances of it coming back and spreading, not just in my abdomen, but everywhere, was extremely high at that time. So I would pretty much lived in the hospital with my family for a very long time. Like I got used to the doctors, the IVs, the blood drawn, and I was 3 years old with walking in like, this is a normal day for me. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that is your normal. If that's all you really ever knew, because you don't
yep,
really recall before 3 years of age. And
yeah,
from 3 years on, you were going to the doctors constantly, getting surgery, giving
yeah,
treatments, drawing blood, and so much pain and suffering that goes along. I
yeah,
mean, you know, just the discomfort of being in a hospital is awful.
yeah.
How did you deal with that at such a young age? How did you find the strength to cope when other kids are out there playing, not worrying about a thing, maybe an occasional sore throat, but you're there dealing with cancer?
Yeah. I guess my biggest coping was I was always with my family. So I was always with my mother, my sister, my dad. So like it was the family, like it was almost like a family event to go to the doctor. And that
Yeah.
was a biggest coping. And that's kind of what I harp on big on the book is having that support system. So if you're the one going through the cancer or you're the family member that has a member in your family that's going through cancer, become that support system because that was probably my main way of coping. And we had a few rough doctors along the way, but I had the best doctors, nurses. Those people are, uh, you know, excel at their career and they know like how to handle a child in that hospital room that has to get blood or has to deal with like those were two like of the best coping mechanisms I had was, hey, my family's with me and hey, I know this nurse, I know this doctor, I'm gonna get a sticker at the end of this, or I'm gonna get a lollipop, or so that was the best way for me to get through it.
Right. The caring, the compassion, the intelligence of the medical professionals that are working with you when you are seriously ill is just astounding. The
Yeah.
fact that they deal with this kind of heartache and pain every day, yet they find the empathy and compassion to
Yeah.
deal with you. It really does reaffirm your faith in human beings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So by the time you were 13, your cancer struggles are over. Tell me about that.
Yep. So with the type of cancer was constant blood work tests. At the age of 13, it was a safe diagnosis to announce I was officially cancer free, meaning that the chances of it coming back were slim to none after 10 years of tests and follow ups and stuff. So at the age of 13, I pretty much, the doctor was like, hey, you don't have to come back every day, every month, or, give it 5 years, But yeah, they were like, you're good. It's safe to say you're cancer free. So that was a great moment for me and my family where, I could kind of not have to worry about it, always look over my shoulder. Like,
Right.
it's a simple cold or illness for any other kid, but for my family, it was like, oh, I'm not feeling well. What could this be? It was a scary thing. So to have a
Right.
little bit of um, relief of having that cancer free announcement, that definitely was a great win for my family and me. So,
So you went from being the kid with cancer to being a war hero, a combat veteran. Tell us a little bit about that transition, because you would think your mom would be so protective of you that you wouldn't let
yeah,
her little boy go,
yep.
into the army. Tell us about that journey.
Yep. And Logan, you're not wrong. My mother was and still is very protective of it.
Yeah.
So after 13 cancer free, I graduated high school and I worked a few odd jobs, side jobs. I was a grill cook, worked at Walmart, and I just had this unignorable desire that I had, a calling that I had to fulfill. And I didn't really know what it was. And then um I kept getting, I'll get promoted at this job, I'll get this, and it never went through. So
Mm.
I went talked to a recruiter. I was actually going to do the Air Force, but at this time, um, you had to score high on certain tests and stuff. So I talked to the Army recruiter, and I was like, I think this is what I need. This is what I want to commit to. And I come from a long family uh, that served honorably for our country. So I felt compelled that that's something I wanted to do. And I went home. I said, well, I think I'm going to join the Army. And at first it was like, well, they didn't really believe me. But then that was an uphill battle as well, because again, cancer came back. My recruiters were like, hey, we gotta look into this. Like, you're a cancer survivor. We don't know if you're fit for the military. So I actually had a battle with that. I had to go see special doctors, make sure I was fit for duty, that I could ship out and join the Army. And after medical screening, getting all that done, it took about 7, 8 months. I came back. My recruiter called, said, "Hey, you're in. But you live for basic on this date." I said, "Let's do it." And I
Yeah.
did almost not quite 10 years. And in 2017, I was deployed to Afghanistan, and I hurt my back. Uh, Basically in action out there, and then I wasn't able to really get back 100% with just my back. So
Right.
luckily I was medically discharged or medically retired from the Army. So, but
Right.
I loved it. It was honorable. I love serving my country, and it was just a blessing that I got to have that opportunity.
Right. And it also must have been such a great juxtaposition that you go from the kid who has cancer, who is struggling his whole childhood. I mean, literally your whole childhood, from the time you're 3 to the time you're 13. And after 13, you're basically a man. So your
Yeah,
whole childhood's consumed with cancer. And then when you become a young man, you're able to join the army and serve for 10 years, where, you have to be physically strong to do that.
yeah,
I couldn't do a basic training for a day. I'd be in the hospital, you know.
yeah.
Um, so that must have been very validating for you, right?
It was absolutely it. When I got out of basic and the training that follows after that, and my first few years in the Army, I was like, wow, and at that time, nobody really knew I was a cancer survivor. Like, I wasn't ever ashamed of it, but that's when I meet somebody, I don't want to start with, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
a cancer survivor." So at that time, I was like, wow, I look back like, man, I felt accomplished. Like, man, when I didn't think I could take another step, I took 10 steps.
Right.
It's like when you don't think you can reach that goal, you take it a day at a time, you look back and you accomplish those goals. It's a very validating feeling.
Oh,
And like I
yeah.
said, I just thankful that I had the opportunity to pursue and enjoy my life and live my life as much as I have. So
Did you mostly serve stateside or were you abroad? Tell us about that.
yeah, so my first duty station was Alaska, Fort Wainwright, and then I did JBLM, which is Washington State, and then I did a few deployments, but Afghanistan was my combat deployment. I've been all over. I've been to Indonesia, Japan, Australia. Yeah, you name it. I had a very fun Army career where I traveled a lot.
Yeah,
So
you went to some beautiful places. You went to some horrifically dangerous places.
yeah, absolutely.
Best and worst of all worlds. Why did you call this book Tell Me the Truth?
So I'm glad you asked that. So when I was, I'll say, but probably probably like 5 or 6, I was old enough to understand what was going on with my cancer, and um, my mom would always tell the nurse, "Hey, if you're gonna take blood and the needle's gonna poke them and it's gonna hurt, just be honest with them. Just tell them it's gonna hurt." And that was the main thing that, I was tough as a kid and got used to the needles and everything. And I always remember my mom saying, "Hey, if it's gonna hurt, you tell him the truth. You tell him it's gonna hurt. He's tough. He's gonna face this. He's gonna get through this." So that stuck with me to these years, and that's why I call it "Tell Me the Truth."
Yeah, that's great. It's great you had such a wonderful mother who was always at your side, who believed in you, who didn't make you feel like a victim, who made you feel empowered, that you were strong and you got this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My mother is my rock and always has been, and that's why I picked that photo and that title, because that a lot of people don't understand, or you can have the "woe is me" mentality, or you can have that, "Hey, pick yourself up, we're gonna get through this." And that was always my mother. She never, she allowed me to be like, "Oh man, this stinks," but at the same time, she was like, "Hey, pick your head up. You're not giving up. We'll get through this. Your family's right here with you. We're getting through it." So I, it, it made me and my mother close, very close,
Mhm.
always to this day. And like I said, you know, I'm to the point in my life where I can value and cherish what kind of mother I have, and she
Yeah.
was definitely there for me as a kid. And I probably wouldn't have made it through that without her, my family specifically, but without her, most definitely.
Yeah. What made you decide to write the book?
So I, I always told my family, like, myself and my family look back like, wow, we've been through a lot. And I was older. I was in the Army at this time, and I used to tell my mom, like, "Yeah, I'm gonna write a book one day." And the Army opened up a mindset of mine where it's like you talk about it, you be about it kind of mentality. So one year I just said, no matter what I'm doing, I was training, I was active duty, working long hours. I said, I'm going to dedicate 1 hour a day to write this book, because we've been saying it for years. But I said, you know what? I'm really going to commit myself to it and do it. And then I think it was just the timing. Like, again, I had a compelling feeling like, not only do I want to write it to share my story, but this might impact and help somebody that really needs it.
Mhm.
Somebody that's going through what I went through as a child. Somebody picks it up or sees it on Amazon. That's just maybe what they need for that day to get through that day. Or, hey, they can read it and reach out and have people know that people are out here that can support them, mentor them, and that's been through it, and that can show them the way me and my family took to get through it and beat it. So
Wonderful. Well, we're glad you wrote the book. It is going to be of great help for anyone who's got a significant challenge in life, whether it's health, whether it's personal, whatever your struggle is. The name of the book is called Tell Me the Truth. It is written by Christopher Ernst. He is an Army veteran and a combat hero, and he shares a very deeply moving account of his journey with cancer that started at the age of 3 and lasted his entire childhood. And as you just heard during our conversation, it didn't keep him from becoming a combat hero as well in the U.S. Army. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
thank you very much, Logan, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity and your time. Thank you.
I appreciate your time as well, and I enjoyed our conversation very much. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.